Hello and welcome. You're watching Ask BQ on Bloomberg Quint. I am Agam Akil. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Agam. Well, I'm Alex Matthew. If you've got questions in equity, then this is the perfect show for you. You can send them to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp. You can also call us on 022-454-04141. You can mail us alternatively on askbq@bloombergquint.com. Only make sure to add the AskBQ hashtag. Now, before you get into the market check, Agam, I do want to point out right at the start that we'll attempt to take as many questions as possible over the course of the show. Do have patience with us. Keep your queries short and, if possible, restricted to one or at the most two stocks that you want us to compare. That will help us fit as many questions as possible into this less than half-hour show.
Well, coming to the markets, Alex, we have seen weakness. This is largely owing to the weakness that we've seen across the globe, not necessarily with what we can expect from the monetary policy, because actually we're not expecting anything out of the monetary policy, no change in rates, and neither are we expecting a change in stance, even though some economists would like to see a change in stance to neutral as from the current calibrated tightening. But coming down to your indices, again, like I've suggested, we are seeing weakness. The Nifty and the Sensex are down. The Nifty Banking Index is also trending lower by around about 0.25%. And we are seeing, in terms of some movers, let's pull up the Nifty gainers and see where there's been some amount of gains. So Tech Mahindra, Bharti Infratel, and HCL Technologies. Among other gainers, we also have Hindustan Unilever advancing now, Wipro and HDFC. On the losing end, well, not much to speak for, but there is weakness in Hindalco and Tata Steel, along with Tata Motors, of course. Tata Motors now down another 3%. This is after the second downgrade from S&P in 5 months, and it continues to, grind lower. But as you can see, it's the metal pack essentially which is leading the declines in today's share of trade. On the whole, it's turning out to be a relatively disappointing session, Alex.
Yes, all right. Well, that's how the markets stand at the moment. Let's get our experts of the day in. Sharmila Joshi, who is an independent investment advisor, and also Sameet Chavan of Angel Broking are here to answer all of your questions today. Welcome to the show, you two. I want to start with the question that perhaps is, to me, the most interesting, because it deals with a topic that I find incredibly interesting, picking stocks. Warren Buffett has spoken about the existence of a business moat, and to ensure that we're all on the same page here, Agam, a business moat is where a product or a service is unique to a certain company, right. And therefore is a proposition that will generate revenues, very short revenues over a longer period of time. So you should identify those companies that have a so-called moat, right, or protective layer around themselves, so that you're ensured that they will generate revenue over a period of time. Now, I speak about this because Akash Randev is asking whether a business moat is still intact for Tata Motors. Now, I do not know if you can say that Tata Motors ever had a moat to begin with, because you've had a lot of automotive players in the past. Right. It's currently trading about 3%. You mentioned this in your trade setup. I do want to ask Sharmila Joshi, at this current level, based on what we've seen so far, both for the domestic business and for Jaguar Land Rover, Akash is wondering whether he can invest in this stock for the next 4 to 5 years. And if you want, you can also comment on the moat theory.
Well, I completely agree with you about the moat bit, because, they are in a business which is sort of not really unique to a unique sort of a business anymore. And there are so many players, even in the domestic front, who make vehicles. So I think, if you're talking of moat in terms of, because of their JLR bid, then I don't know, but I don't really think that really qualifies. And in any case, I think moat as a concept is really becoming more and more challenged, because it's very difficult to sort of have a business that stays unique to you, or some idea that stays unique to you. Because if an idea works, then you find that people are far quicker to sort of replicate that idea nowadays. Coming to Tata Motors, I think the good news break for it could be if Brexit is called off. So I think you need to keep your ear on the ground for that. Because there has been news floating around that could be a possibility. If that becomes indeed a reality, then you could see fortunes change for Tata Motors very swiftly. But as things stand, I think it's best avoided at this point in time. I think while the domestic picture for most Indian auto companies is still fairly okay. I think for Tata Motors now there are too many moving bits with what's happening globally, when something goes wrong domestically. So at any given point in time, there are different parts of the story that may not be working in favor of Tata Motors. As a disclaimer, I own Tata Motor DVR and I am not selling my stake. But I think if you're looking for a fresh purchase, at this point in time, it might be preferable to go with an Ashok Leyland or a Mahindra & Mahindra.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, S&P Ratings has downgraded Tata Motors Jet for the second time in 5 months, putting it deeper into the junk category at this point in time. But this is largely on account of uncertainty with respect to Jaguar Land Rover. But I'm going to go on and take a technical check on Ceat now. We have Alex Morgan, and he said that he's entered Ceat at 1100. And his question is, should he hold or book full quantity, or perhaps book partially? That's the additional question I will pose to Sameet. Sameet, Ceat is clearly advanced from the mark of 1100, currently at 1280, and it's looking strong too. I believe there has been an accumulation in open interest towards longs. What would you advise Alex Morgan to do with his position in Ceat?
Yes, certainly, yes. Recently, we saw good recovery in this counter from low levels. Since last couple of weeks, the stock has been consolidating, and since morning, we are seeing good positive traction in this counter. Stock can head towards its 200-day moving average, which is placed in the zone of 1360, 1370. Having said that, in such kind of scenarios, since he is already 15 to 18% in the money, so what I would suggest is at least book partial profits and trail stop losses higher, somewhere around 1240 for his balance positions, and then hold on for a target of 1350, 1360.
Okay, another of the stocks that has been in focus of late, allegations leveled against both the promoter and the company. I'm talking about Sun Pharma, which, as I can see, is again at a 52-week low today, trading at just about 433. So Shivani Dhanuka is saying that she finds these levels quite attractive, and she's wondering if she can invest between 2 and 2.5 lakhs for the next 2 to 3 years. Sharmila, if you've looked at the allegations and the way that Mr. Shanghvi addressed them, most of them seemingly have been addressed in the con call that was held. But how are you looking at that, and how are you looking at the business for the next 2 to 3 years?
Yes, so they seem to have gotten themselves into an unfortunate spot, and I think that it will take some more doing to really completely allay concerns. And these corporate governance sort of issues tend to be a little sticky. That said, I think perhaps I would agree with the investor that it seems like a good time to buy into the stock. But my only advice would be to not invest the entire amount in one go, but to do a staggered bit buying, because from the way the stock price has moved, it doesn't seem that the market is sort of done with the selling in the stock. And further clarity is awaited, because you need to wait to see what view really SEBI takes on this, because SEBI has not really responded sort of formally and said that they are indeed doing anything, because the company said that they haven't heard from SEBI. So I think these things are still sort of to be sorted. So the advice would be, yes, you can buy, but perhaps in a staggered manner. And again, as a disclaimer, I own this stock.
Okay. We also want a fundamental view on Tata Steel. We have Dilip on YouTube who says that he holds Tata Steel for the long term. His entry price is much higher than current levels. He's entered into Tata Steel at 610. Tata Steel is currently trading at 523 odd. And his question is, should I look to sell or should I hold on? That's the question he is asking. Sharmila, I'm going to direct this to you. What would you advise Dilip to do with a Tata Steel? How are you seeing trade on this one?
Well, this is a slightly difficult question, because yes, again, for Tata Steel, everything that's happening in Europe and the tariff wars, etc., if all those things were to come about, it would not be in favor of Tata Steel. So, that's the kind of pressure the stock has been feeling in these last 4-5 months, because, as the talks go on and there doesn't seem to be any end in sight, things could get a little, their businesses overseas could get affected. And unfortunately, the buying price for the investors on the higher end of the range, because in any case, commodities sort of move in a P band, and that 610 was at the higher end of that. I mean, I really think that it's really a tough call to take because the stock is okay at this level, but I don't know how soon it can get to 610 or whether there in the interim there could be a bit more of a drawdown because a lot will depend on how events really shape up. So to be on the safe side, maybe he can exit the stock and try and enter it again if he gets it lower. Or else I think just stay put with the purchase that you have. I really leave it to the investor because I think that uncertainty remains because of the fluid global situation.
Okay, we want a technical view on Tata Coffee. This one comes from Rishabh Khandelwal. He wants a 3 to 6 month view on Tata Coffee. Let's pull that up because the first Tata Coffee, along with Tata Global Beverages, has been under pressure. Tata Global Beverages owns Tata Coffee. Tata Coffee is currently at 94. Rishabh Khandelwal's entry price is at 127. Pardon me, that's his average price. That's at 127, and it's currently at 94. So he's clearly looking at a potential loss, and he wants to know what should be done. He wants a 3 to 6 month view here. Sameet, I reckon that the charts must be certainly looking weak, considering we have seen so much weakness on Tata Coffee. But what would you recommend him to do? His average price comes to around 127. What would you ask him to do?
See, unfortunately, this calendar year has not been so great for this counter. It has corrected from its higher levels of 175, 180. So, half of the price is already gone now. So, if we look at the overall movement in last 1.5 months, the stock has done nothing price-wise. There is no encouraging sign. Why? If we look at the volume activity, it has dried down completely. So, unless we see any participation in this counter, I don't expect the stock to give a decent move from current levels. So first, volume needs to pick up, and price wise this stock needs to surpass 100, 105. So if both these parameters meet, then probably we could see some kind of move. But as of now, it would be very difficult to comment on this counter. I'll require some kind of developments on the price front as well as volume front.
Sameet, do you have enough data on Take Solutions, currently trading around 135? We've got somebody who's looking for a longer term view on the stock, and he sees that the levels, according to him, are attractive. He's looking, in fact, for more than a year. If you have data that will give him that target, then that'll be good.
See, first half of this calendar year was so great for this counter. This stock gave spectacular move from the levels of 160 towards 300. However, in last 5 to 6 months, the stock has already seen a good nosedive from its higher levels, and now it's trading around its multi-year lows. So 118, 120, these are the levels to watch out for. If the stock manages to find some kind of support and buying emerges around those support, then again we could see a good relief move. But as of now, 165, 170, these are the next levels to watch out for. And whatever position he is holding, he'll have to keep a strict stop loss below 115 on a closing basis.
Okay, that's your view on Take Solutions. I'm going to move in and take another one. This one is on a 6 month view on Gulf Oil. Now, again, because this is, a relatively shorter term view, I'm going to take a technical check on this one. Gulf Oil is at 775. It doesn't look like a very liquid counter, though we do address it from time to time. And as you can see, there's very little move today, but we do have Adit Shah, who wants to get a 6 month view on Gulf Oil. Well, that's okay. So I'm going to toss it over to Sameet again. Sameet, what would you ask Adit to do with this one?
See, with the short term as well as medium term view, 800 is the key level for this particular counter. If it manages to surpass 800 and sustains above that, then we could see a good leg of upside leg of rally, probably towards 860, 880 as well. But first, the stock needs to surpass this level and sustain above that. Since last 3 weeks, it has been consolidating very on the low side. 730, 740 has been acting as a very strong support. So for any kind of positivity to trigger in this counter, this stock needs to give a decisive breakout beyond 800.
Okay, this I think a number of people are interested in knowing about Maharashtra Scooter and the prospects therein. In fact, from what I understand, people are looking at it as a proxy play on the Bajaj group because it holds stake in the Bajaj firms, including the finance twins as well as Bajaj Auto. and it's available at a discount. But Sharmila, when we're talking about Maharashtra Scooter, we've got investors who've got 1,000 shares, perhaps a little more in certain cases. Do they hold on for the long term? That all depends on the prospects of the Bajaj Group entities in question.
Well, I'm positive on Bajaj Auto. So therefore, in my limited view, I guess Maharashtra Scooters could be a stock to hold on to. But very honestly, I don't track it very actively.
Okay. That's the view on Maharashtra Scooters, and I'm sure we don't have too much going for it. Of course, it's not a very liquid stock, but we do have about 3.5% gains there. I'm going to move on to the next one, and this one is on Reliance Industries. This one is a technical check here. So Ujjwal Kumar asks whether or not it would be a good idea to enter Reliance Industries at these levels. If not, what would be the best entry point for Reliance Industries at this point in time? It's currently at around 1156 odd. Sameet, your view?
See, this stock is trading in a range very on the higher side. 1170, 1175 has been acting as a resistance, and 3 days back, the stock corrected precisely from those important resistance zones. Today we are seeing good traction in this counter. So first, this stock has to surpass this hurdle of 1175, 1178. If that is crossed, then we could see a good jump towards 1230, 1250. So in our sense, wait for a breakout to happen beyond 1275, and if that happens, then next level to watch out for would be around 1230, 1250.
All right. Well, I reckon we will have a bunch of questions on Ashok Leyland. From what I can see, Melancholy Spirit as well as Vishal Sangvi wants a view on Ashok Leyland from the long-term point of view. It's currently at 104. Well, it seems the stock price and the price movement has certainly deteriorated, but are fundamentals in check? That's the question I'm going to ask Sharmila. Sharmila, what would you do with Ashok Leyland? Do you think this is a good entry point to perhaps find some value in Ashok Leyland, or do you want to wait for a little longer?
Well, I think you can start buying at this level, but definitely I think the way market is, for any buying, I would recommend a sort of a staggered approach, especially for longer term investors. And yes, I think specifically for Ashok Leyland, the stock obviously started correcting when we saw that resignation, because the one thing that sort of market doesn't like is uncertainty, and then you are like really not sure who's going to be heading the company and etc. It just puts a question mark on things going ahead. Well, the company has done lots really to clean up the balance sheet and bring things sort of in focus, and the kind of product launches they've had, etc. But what we're also witnessing is a sort of an overall, meaning not exactly like a slowdown, but sort of slightly muted growth on a lot of the CV space, and CV as a space tends to be a little sticky. So when you see this kind of a sort of tapering down in terms of the kind of growth numbers that they were doing month on month, it means it could sort of extend a bit more. But I think now it's getting at valuations at which it can be looked at, and hopefully we'll have news on the management front also pretty soon. So yes, I think you can start buying at this level, but as I said, try and stagger your buying so that you have some amount of money to buy if it goes below 100, which it has done in the past.
Sameet, I also want to get a technical view on this stock, because I was speaking to somebody in-house who's looking at the charts, and he spotted and explained to me what he saw as a head and shoulders pattern, and he said that there is a distinct possibility of a downside to the stock in the near term. How are you looking at the levels?
Please, I'm sorry, I missed out the name.
I'm talking about Ashok Leyland.
See, recently there has been clearly, some kind of underperformance in this counter. Every rally is getting sold into, and this is what we saw a couple of days back also. Yes, 100, 102 is a cluster of support for this particular counter, at least in the near term. So if it manages to hold, we could see a good relief move. But as of now, we believe that 100 is the level to watch out for. We might see some kind of consolidation. But mind you, once the stock breaks 100 and sustains below that, then we could see a good sharp correction towards the 90, 88 odd levels.
Okay, Sameet, we have an F&O query on Asian Paints. We have Gaurav who's interested in buying the 1360 call of Asian Paints, which I believe is currently trading at around 23 odd. That's the premium at which you can buy it. But it's still a bit away. It's not very away, but it's still about a good 30 points away from that particular call going in the money. And of course, he's also trying to correlate the fall in crude with Asian Paints, but that's always going to be a tough one, Gaurav, considering even analysts often find it difficult to put that correlation on an immediate basis. But I'm going to take a technical check here. Sameet, how would you see Asian Paints movement in this series, and whether or not it will make sense for Gaurav to buy the 1360 call on Asian Paints?
See, directionally speaking, he is on the right side. Even we are of the opinion that the stock is likely to head higher from current level. But when you buy an option that too slightly out of the money option, then you need momentum in this particular counter. And since last 4 or 5 days, clearly the momentum is missing. It's in a consolidation mode. So what I would suggest is let this stock trigger important levels. So important level to watch out for would be around 1342. So if the stock surpasses 1342, we could see some kind of momentum coming back into this counter. In that case, he can definitely go long in 1360 strike.
Okay, do we have, Sharmila, a view on Quest Corp for the long term? We've got Sanjeev Khajuria, who's looking to invest for the long term.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the name.
We're talking about Quest Corp.
Quest Corp.
Yes.
Yes, I think, once again, stock sort of trading at really, it was a fancy stock, and which is why it got that sort of valuation that it did. But now in this interim, we've seen this correction come on mid caps. But I think that if you have the patience, you can continue to hold the stock.
Okay, let's bring up Kesoram Industries. We are going to take Siddharth Rawat's query, and he said that he sold about 5,000 shares of Kesoram in cash, which I believe is in the grey market, considering this isn't available in the futures and options space, at 90. And he's covered about 4,000 shares at 87. He has 1,000 shares left. So he's sold it at 95, pardon me, and he has 1,000 shares left. Sameet, the question then is to you. Do you think that he should cover the remaining 1,000 shares at 86, or do you think there's more downside to Kesoram, technically speaking?
See, he must have done intraday trade in this particular counter, for his delivery. But in such kind of mid-cap counters, it would be very difficult to comment whether the correction is over for this counter, since it has already rallied quite a lot. Directionally, yes, the trend has become quite positive, and any dip from current level would be a good buying opportunity. But whether the correction is already over or not, it would be very difficult to comment. This stock can correct towards 80 to 80 rupees also. So since he has covered half of his position, I think he should let go his balanced position.
Okay, it's the time of the show where we get into the rapid fire segment, where we try and take as many of your queries as possible in a 2-minute time frame. A quick shout out to our experts to keep their answers as short as possible so that we can fit in as many questions as possible. Sharmila, would you invest for the long term into Dixon Technologies at current levels?
Yes, I think that if you have a slightly longer term view, because that Xiaomi tie-up has to sort of show in their numbers, but if you're ready to do that, then yes.
Okay, Sharmila, one more for you. Animesh Yadav wants to know, what would you do with Dilip Bilcon?
No, I'm afraid I don't have a view.
What about AB Capital, Sharmila? Would you recommend getting in at current levels?
Yes, this is a stock that I like, but once again, the advice would be to do a staggered buy.
Okay, a view on Page Industries, Sameet. The question is, can I buy Page Industries at these levels?
Wait for further downside, probably toward 24,000, 23,500. That makes a good risk to reward ratio. So wait for further correction, or else before that, if the stock surpasses this hurdle of 27,000, that would be a buying opportunity.
So the viewer had that level in mind anyway. Mohammed Sharfuddin is asking whether he should hold on to VIP Industries, Sharmila. He bought at 550.
Yes, this is a stock that I like, and this quarter is a good quarter for luggage companies, because the wedding season always sees more sales. So yes, I think you can hold on to this stock.
Okay, Ankur Sachan wants to know and get a view on IDFC Bank. We'll do a technical check. Can we pull up IDFC Bank and see where it's trading at? It's at around 37.95, down 3%. Sameet, your view?
See, overall, there are no encouraging signs such as, yes, recently the stock managed to give some sharp move from lower levels, but again, the stock is now consolidating. So 40, 41, these are the levels to watch out for. If it breaks those levels, then we could see a move towards 45, 46.
Okay, what about Dilip Buildcon? Animesh Yadav is asking Sharmila about Dilip Buildcon. What's your view?
I think I just answered that and I said I don't really have a view.
All right. Yeah, okay. We're going to take our view also on Apollo Tyres. Technical check is required here. Sameet, how would you trade Apollo Tyres around?
Looks good. If he has a positional view, short-term view, then this correction in last 3 days can be used as a buying opportunity. One can go long at current level, keep a stop loss around 222, and we would expect this stock to head towards this 200-day moving average, which is placed in the zone of 250 to 255.
Okay, well, that's all we have time for, unfortunately, on this episode of Ask BQ. I do want to thank our two guests, Sharmila and Sameet, for helping all our viewers with their queries today. Well, on that note,
of course, on that note, we're going to wrap this edition of Ask BQ.
There's a lot more to look forward to. Monetary policy.
There certainly is monetary policy coming up, and of course, we're going to keep getting you the analysis of how markets react, not only equity, but as well as your money markets react to the monetary policy. But up next is Power Lunch. Keep sending us your queries, and we'll keep answering them as many as possible. So stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint.
Take care.